Hey there, it's Carson from Wanderingdillos. Today we're going to share with you a video of some trails that we ran out in Big Bend Ranch State Park out in West Texas. And along with that, we'll be answering some of the common questions that we get asked about that area, what the trails are like, the conditions, what you need to do to prepare. So that's going to be the subject of this video. And also just a quick disclaimer, we're not park rangers. We don't pretend to be experts in anything. We're just sharing with you our experiences, some of our opinions. So individual results may vary. Highly encourage you to do your own homework before you start out on an adventure like this. Check in with the park rangers, get the most recent road conditions and any rules that may have changed. Most importantly, check in with yourself, your vehicle, and your passengers to make sure that everybody is adequately prepared for the adventure ahead. All right, let's get to it. So where is Big Bend Ranch State Park? As I mentioned, it is in far west Texas. It's down on the Rio Grande River. The Rio Grande makes a bend in southern Texas, thus the Big Bend in Big Bend Ranch. It's about 180 miles from El Paso. It's probably the closest large city, and about 400 miles from San Antonio. So it is remote, and for that reason, it's one of the least visited state parks in Texas. Typical annual visitation is less than 20,000 visitors, and it's hundreds of thousands of square acres, so there's plenty of room to spread out. We were there for several days and only saw a handful of people. So if you like going to remote locations, having a lot of privacy and solitude, this is a great place to visit. So probably the most common question is, how are the roads? And the answer to that is really, it depends. There is a very nice paved road that goes along the Rio Grande River, along the southern border of the park. It's beautiful, accessible to really any kind of vehicle. If you want to get into the interior of the park, then you're either on graded gravel and dirt roads, that are the primary roads, or unimproved, what we would call Jeep trails, but basically two tracks that just kind of wander off into the desert. These are the original roads used by the ranchers when this was a working ranch. So anything from nice paved 2-lane highway to very, very rough off-road trails. So as you come into the park, from the park entrance to the Sausalito Ranger Station, which is sort of the center point of the interior of the park, it's about 27, almost 30 miles. And it is a fairly well-maintained dirt, gravel, stone road. The speed limit is posted at 15 miles an hour though, so it does take about 2 hours to make that distance from the turnoff of the paved road to the ranger station. Now, do you have to go 15 miles per hour? There are places where you might be tempted to go faster than that, but the reality is there are a ton of things that can be hiding in the shadows, rocks, little washouts that, you know, if you get going much above 15 miles an hour, you may not have an opportunity to get stopped because these things can sneak up on you really, really quick and could really ruin your day. So our advice would be take your time. It is a beautiful scenic drive. There's no need to rush. Just chill, you know, keep it below 15, stop, take pictures, look around. It is a beautiful drive. But again, you're looking at probably 2 hours just to get into the interior of the park. Now, when you get out on some of the dedicated 4x4 trails, and these will be marked, there'll be a sign right at the beginning that says 4x4 high clearance vehicles required, backcountry permit required. You're going to go much slower on those. The trail that we're running in this video goes from a campsite called Chorro Vista, and it goes back to the ranger station at the center of the park. So that's really only about a 10-mile trail. It ended up taking us probably about an hour and a half to navigate those 10 miles. So once you get off the main park road, you're probably looking at an average speed of 5 to 7 miles an hour. So just take that into consideration, that once you get onto some of these roads, you're really going to slow down, and it may take longer than you might have expected to get to your destinations. So another common question is, do I have to have a Jeep or a pickup truck to be able to enjoy Big Bend Ranch State Park? And the answer is no. There are plenty of areas along that interior corridor where the road is maintained that you can get to in a passenger car, minivan, whatever you're driving, you'll be fine as long as you take your time and be cautious. Once you get off of the main road, there will be signs telling you high clearance 4x4 vehicles required. And based on our experience, we would recommend that you heed that warning. There are plenty of opportunities out there to bust something. We saw vehicles leaving the park, minivans or cars with what was left of their front bumper kind of strapped up on the roof of their car. So if you want to avoid some expensive damage, we would recommend that you don't go off down one of those Jeep trails unless you have a properly set up vehicle. Now, no matter what kind of vehicle you're driving, even if it's the most prepped Jeep or pickup truck, just be aware that in some places these trails get very, very tight with very pokey, scratchy bushes on either side, and it's unavoidable. You will get what they call desert pinstripes, so you will get scratches in your paint. If that is a concern to you, if you drive a beautiful trophy truck and you are just all about keeping that thing nice and shiny and scratch-free, probably don't want to take these trails. We've got a Jeep Wrangler. It's not real wide, narrower than a lot of the pickup trucks, and unavoidably, yeah, we got significant pinstriping on both sides of the vehicle. So that's an important consideration if you're concerned about your paint job. What about fuel? There is no fuel once you're inside the park. So again, you're a 2-hour drive to get from the nearest gas station to the interior of the park, and then could be several additional hours to get to any campsites or trails that you want to explore. So depending on the fuel economy of your vehicle, how much driving you plan on doing, whether or not you plan on going back into town, you may want to take spare fuel with you. Just a matter of knowing the capacity and capabilities of your vehicle. In our case, we took an extra 4 gallons just because when we're traveling, that's something we do as an insurance policy. We didn't need it. When we entered the park, we had a full tank, and when we left the park, we still had about a quarter of a tank, and that was for 3 days of backcountry exploring. So again, do your own math for your vehicle, but worst case scenario, pick up a 5-gallon can of gasoline, and you'll be sure that you won't run out when you're out on the trails. What about tires? So I asked one of the rangers, I said, folks obviously break down out here and have problems. What's the most common problem that they run into? And he didn't hesitate. He said it's flat tires. People all the time are getting flat tires. And he said this is due to all of the sharp, pokey things that you run into out there in the desert. There's a lot of volcanic rock, which is very, very sharp. And of course, a lot of mesquite bushes and things that have all sorts of pokey things coming out of them. So tire damage is a very real possibility. If you have a pickup truck with 3-ply tires, 3-ply sidewalls, thicker tread, you're probably more resistant to that type of damage than you are with just a passenger car tire. But still, it's highly advised that you bring a full-size spare so that if you do have a flat tire, you can swap out that full-size spare. A little donut spare tire out here, probably not going to be a good experience, right? Just too small, probably going to end up with a flat, compact spare, to be honest. Fix-a-flat and things like that, products you spray into the tire to heal up punctures, always a good thing to have. But again, if you've gotten a big gash in the sidewall from a sharp piece of rock that was sticking out, again, a fix-a-flat is not going to do anything for you. So the rangers recommend, and you'll see it on their website and all the documentation, have a full-size spare and know how to use it, and have a jack on board so that you can do that. And be prepared to do that yourself, because AAA is not going to come out to help you. And the rangers, it could be quite a while before they find you out in the desert. So be prepared to do that yourself if necessary. Water. And I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure you take enough water. Once you get into the interior of the park, the only reliable source of water will be at the Saucedo Ranger Station. There is no other water that you can count on throughout the park. There are some springs, some rivers, so if you're prepared to treat your own water, you might be able to find some, but you shouldn't count on it. People die out here. On an unfortunately somewhat regular basis because of exposure and dehydration. So take enough water for you, for your folks that are with you, and take spare water. If you're planning on being out there for the day, make sure you have water for 2 or 3 days. And if you plan on camping for a week, make sure you have enough water for a couple unexpected days if necessary. Now, what about services within the park? They're extremely limited. Everything that you're going to find will be at the Saucedo Ranger Station at the center of the park, and that's going to be limited to restrooms, showers, drinking water, and if you're lucky, ice. That's it. There's no food, there's no fuel. So very limited services in the park. So make sure you bring with you everything that you're going to need for your visit. Because other than the things I've mentioned, you're not going to find it once you get into the interior of the park. Take just a second to talk about communications. Once you get to the interior of the park, you're more than likely not going to have cell service. There just aren't any towers in that area. So you can go for hours and hours and potentially days without any cell service. The only Wi-Fi within the park will be at the Sauceda Ranger Station. So if you go there, you can get a limited Wi-Fi signal. Other than that, you are on your own. So we would recommend that if you're going to be out there for any period of time, that you have some sort of satellite-based communication system. Now, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy, a sat phone that costs a ridiculous amount of money, but there are products, satellite messaging products that would allow you, in an emergency, to get word out and get some help should you need it. So we would encourage you to investigate what those options are. And if you don't want to buy one, there are services online where you can rent them for the duration of your visit. So it's worth it to have that insurance policy when you're going to be somewhere where help is far away and communication is very limited. So one of the questions that always comes up sooner or later, what do you do about going to the bathroom? Because, that's something that sooner or later, it's going to come up. The only flush toilets within the park will be at the Sauceda Ranger Station. So that's it in that respect. There are some pit toilets located throughout the park in some of the more remote areas. If you're going into the backcountry and going to be camping, you have to be prepared to pack your stuff out. Cat-holing, where you just go dig a hole and you leave your business and cover it up with some sand or rocks, it's not allowed in this park, and it is a finable offense if you get caught doing it. So they require, if you're going to be staying in the backcountry, that you take something with you that allows you to catch your business and take it out. The most simple solution, and you can buy these at the ranger station, is 5-gallon bucket with a toilet seat on it and some liners that you put in it. And the liners have some magic crystals that when you do your business, those crystals absorb any of the liquid and help keep things from getting a little too stinky. And at the end of the day, you roll that thing up, you ziplock it tight, and then that can be disposed of in the trash and the dumpsters at the ranger station. But just be aware of that. If you're used to just going in the backcountry, dropping your drawers and taking care of your business, it's not allowed in this park, and you'll need to make special preparations for that. Now make sure you're prepared for the weather. This region of the state can have very extreme weather conditions. In the summer, the temperatures will be brutal. They could be well above 100 degrees with very low humidity. You can get dehydrated, have heat stroke, and die very quickly. So don't really recommend that it's a place you explore in the summer unless you are really experienced in desert backpacking. Oddly enough, it can also get really, really cold. And even in the summer, again, you've got clear skies. You're at about 4,000 feet to 5,000 feet elevation. Once the sun goes down, it can get quite cool. And in the winter, it can get very cold, especially at night. And so folks also will perish out here in the winter due to exposure. So, your best defense is be prepared, have plenty of layers so that you can deal with anything from warm to cold weather. And most importantly, bring water. More water than you think you need, because your number one enemy in the desert is going to be dehydration, and the best tool to fight that is going to be having plenty of drinking water. Now, navigation within the park is also another fun challenge that you probably want to think about a little bit before you arrive. As tempting as it is to rely on tools like Google Maps to get you where you need to go, there's a couple problems with that. One is you're not going to have cell service to be able to get any sort of real-time data on your mapping. And also the maps can be very unreliable. They don't give you a good idea for the trail conditions. They don't give you a realistic estimate of the amount of time. So in this video, we're watching the trip that we took from Chorro Vista up to the ranger station. It's only about 10 miles, and it took us about an hour and a half. If you pull it up on Google Maps, it'll tell you that it's about 10 miles, but it'll make you think that you can do that drive in 35 minutes. That's really not realistic unless you are on a sport bike and you are out there just tearing into it, doing some high-speed driving. The reality is, if you're in a Jeep or a truck, you're probably going to be trundling along at under 10 miles an hour. So just be aware of that those results that Apple or Google will give you could be very unreliable. The other thing they won't tell you is what to expect as far as road conditions. And to help solve that, we would highly recommend that when you check in at the ranger station, you pick up one of these exploration maps. It's a detailed topographical map of the park that shows all of the roads, and it will tell you whether it's a maintained road, if it's a four-wheel drive only road, or if it's an unmaintained road. And that's going to be important information. There's also a lot of roads that'll shoot off, little trails that'll shoot off that aren't going to show up on the Google Maps, and they will be on this so that if you get a little lost or waylaid and you're not exactly sure where you're going, having a map and knowing how to use it can be a valuable tool to make sure that you stay on track or get you back on track should you get disoriented once you're out there in the backcountry. So, it's a cheap investment and could save you a lot of confusion and stress when you're out in the trails. All right, so just a few, final thoughts before we'll let you finish up watching the video. And I would say the most important piece of advice is to follow the Scout motto and be prepared. It's a beautiful country. If you go, you will you'll be amazed at how scenic it is, but it is also very remote, very rugged, very unforgiving country. So make sure you've done your homework. Make sure you've got a vehicle that's appropriate for where you plan on going. Make sure that vehicle is in a good state of repair. Make sure that you've got plenty of fuel. Make sure that you've got that full-size spare tire. Make sure you have water for you and all of your passengers, and make sure you take a little extra just in case you need it. Have some way to reach out for help if you find that you have suffered a mechanical or medical problem when you're out in the backcountry. If you're well prepared, you're going to have a fantastic time, and little things that come up will just become part of the great story that you get to share with your friends when you get home. So get out there, enjoy it, check it out. We hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to stop talking now and let you continue to enjoy the rest of the trip that's playing. And again, thanks for watching. We'll look for you out there on the road.